What is going on, YouTube? Next is TV, back again on another video. I know it's been a while since you guys have heard me say that, but hey, I've been focusing on Defender of S.H.I.E.L.D. for the last, what, 8 weeks now. But basically, this is the finale. And I want to just tell you guys that this is going to be a lengthy episode. It might be 10 minutes, it might be a little bit longer, so if you guys are down for that sort of time, then sit back and enjoy. Episode 8, Acronym War, Finale, The Talk. Hey, Con Man, Lincoln says, his voice cheerful despite his surroundings. Connor squints hard at his cousin. Lincoln looks the way he did before his death. Connor had fallen through the floor at the AIM manufacturing facility after he and Quake had destroyed the facility. Connor can't remember what happened. All he remembers is telling Daisy to run away. Link? What are you doing here? Connor asks with confusion as he retracts his visor and helmet. Link crouches down next to Connor, who lays against a piece of the floor that he was running on only minutes before. Can a guy not talk to his cousin or something? Lincoln says, with a smirk and a chuckle. Lincoln, you've been dead for years. Lincoln shrugs before sitting down next to his cousin. Yeah, you got me there. I am dead, but come on. Don't act like you haven't done weirder than speak with a ghost, Lincoln says. Remember that one time when I saw you? He begins to add before Connor immediately interjects. Yeah, okay. I get it. But it wasn't weirder than that time you left your phone open while talking to Daisy, Connor says. A grin creeping onto his face as Lincoln laughs at this before asking how things are going being a superhero. I don't even know what word to use for that, but it's all moved fast, Connor says. Lincoln nods as the two simply sit silently for a second. I know about Chief Jackson. I'm sorry, Lincoln tells Connor, his voice sympathetic. Connor's gaze falls to the concrete ground he sits on. I'm sorry too. I always think about what I could have done. He gave me that suit to help people, and it's like I just froze when he needed the help. The father I never had, dead in the worst way, Connor says. Lincoln shakes his head. That exactly. I've been keeping an eye on you, even during that fight on the raft. Chief Jackson died like I did, protecting who we cared about. And he fought to do it. You know that. So don't act like he made it easy on that scumbag that you drowned, Lincoln says. Connor seems to be lost in thought. He remembers it perfectly, seeing Chief make Willis Stryker bleed. Chief Jackson did go out a fighter. Connor looks at Lincoln and nods in understanding. You know, I'm proud of how far you've come. When I left, you were a 16-year-old kid who I just had to pick up from being suspended. And I know your mom grinded your ass hard, Lincoln says as he chuckles. Connor laughs as he remembers the day in May of 2016. I got into a fight over whether Tony Stark or Captain Rogers was right, Connor says, laughing at how out of control the argument got. Lincoln smiles as he remembers hearing his mom scold him. I gotta say, hearing your mom scream at you was kind of funny, Lincoln says. Connor chuckles before asking, I gotta know, why exactly are you here? Connor asks. Lincoln looks at him and smiles warmly before slowly shaking his head. There's still so much I want to tell you and talk to you about, but I'm here to say goodbye to you. I owe you that. And if I knew it was going to happen, I would have said goodbye back then, Lincoln says as he slowly stands back up. Connor's eyes widen as he realizes that he's about to lose his cousin again. But before I go, you gotta stand up. Melinda May and NYPD are looking for you. They're sweeping the building. Meet him halfway, Lincoln says as he looks up through the hole in the floor that Connor fell through. Connor slowly stands up, and Lincoln turns and looks back at his cousin. Goodbye, Connor, Lincoln says as Connor watches him slowly walk off into the darkness, his footsteps slowly becoming fainter. Connor slowly closes his eyes, and tears stream down as he says, Goodbye, Lincoln, in a choked voice. Act 2, NYW. The Northeast Soldier rises from the underground as SWAT NYPD officers and a few of the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. run toward him. They stop as they see him hovering up from the hole in the ground, and land softly in front of them. Daisy runs from the group toward Connor and hugs him tightly. I thought I lost you too, Daisy says, alluding to Lincoln's death. This causes Connor's breath to hitch as he thinks back to the minutes prior. Connor grabs Daisy by the shoulders. It's going to take more than falling through a hole to get rid of me, he says. The cavalry pipes up from behind saying that the reunion is touching, but that they have to hurry and get to the city. Alfonso just contacted me and said that AIM is moving on Manhattan. We have to intercept them, because if they drop the Sentinels into the city, we're through. she says. Connor and Daisy look at each other before looking back at Melinda and nodding in affirmation. S.H.I.E.L.D. agents back at base get ready. If not to fight front line, then to only be reinforcements. Meanwhile, AIM guards fly on personnel carriers, along with synthoids, AIM riot bots, and quad mechs, and DODC guards, which are coming to fend off NYPD. New York City is already theirs. They can feel it. However, the Northeast Soldiers, S.H.I.E.L.D., and NYPD are coming right for them. You ever been in a battle this big, Campbell, too? One of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents asks. Connor shakes his head but says that this fight is one he's been waiting for since the DODC took his armor. Just then, Yo-Yo looks over to the left. She sees an EMP blast hit the Quinjet next to her, theirs, and the engine shut off as the jet plummets toward the ground. Alfonso, Bravo team has been hit! She screams. Connor hears this and he says that he's got this, and he jumps out of the back of the jet. His propulsors blasting off toward the falling Quinjet. Come on, the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent flying the plane says as she tries to activate the backup power for the engines. I got this, just focus on controlling the jet, the cavalry would say as the other agents on the jet brace for impossible impact. However, behind them, the DODC suit flies toward them, ready to deliver the final attack, a micro-missile directly to the back of the jet. But the Northeast Soldier doesn't let that happen. As the DODC armored pilot lines up their shot, Connor flies into them, knocking them out of the sky. The pilot tries to regain control, however, they're flying dead stick. Connor continues his assault. Carol, boost! Connor yells as the suit jets in the armor output extra power. The DODC suit continues to fall, but suddenly the pilot manages to flip backwards and reposition themselves to retaliate at the defender of S.H.I.E.L.D. The DODC armor flies toward its original owner as Connor keeps his nerve. The suits get closer and closer, before finally clashing. Meanwhile, Melinda May finally regains control of the Quinjet and gains altitude again. Tell me I'm not the only one who sees that, she says as the NYPD officers all begin to follow her gaze. In the sky, about 200 feet above them, they see a large fleet of AIM and DODC aircraft. Melinda, what's your status? Daisy asks. The cavalry replies that they're back in the air before flying up next to them. The pilot nods to Alfonso, and Alfonso nods back. After a few more minutes, they're only a few miles out of the city. AIM and DODC have decreased altitude. We have to put them down somewhere, Melinda says. You guys ready? An NYPD officer asks. A S.H.I.E.L.D. agent replies with, Yep, let's do this, as she grabs an EMP launcher from the ceiling of the Quinjet. On the count of 3, they both fire, and the blasts shorten a voil before the AIM and DODC. The blasts hit, and the carriers shut down, lowering and lowering, until finally they make impact with the ground. Confirmed hit, Alfonso says. Okay, let's get down there and finish them off, Audrey says. The NYPD and S.H.I.E.L.D. both land, and they all exit the aircrafts. Some of the officers and agents run over toward the crash site, but suddenly, bullets rain down on them, killing the dozen that made their way over. These bullets belong to the DODC suit, who lands in front of the wreckage. Dozens of NYPD and S.H.I.E.L.D. personnel stand together and open fire. However, the DODC pilot activates the riot shield, blocking all the bullets before suddenly, Quake steps forward and pushes the suit back into a piece of the carrier. However, this only causes a second of peace, when suddenly, as if rising from the dead, AIM and DODC guards, synthoids, the riot bots, and the quad mechs rise. The Northeast Soldier lands hard in front of the dozens of NYPD and S.H.I.E.L.D. personnel, and he stares down the DODC suit. The two sides stare each other down, ready to move at any second. The air becomes electric and thick, and the energy turns dark and aggressive. Alfonso? Audrey says in anticipation. Engage! Alfonso yells. Advance! Foster says to his side. The two sides collide with each other, and bullets fly as shootouts go down, and hand-to-hand combat ensues between groups of the DODC and NYPD. Yo-Yo rushes through the field, neutralizing enemies with only seconds between each other. However, when she stops for a second, a synthoid approaches her, but is stopped by a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent who fires an EMP blast at the synthoid. Multiple quad mechs crawl around the battlefield, firing lasers from their frontal blaster mounted on their heads. Quake makes her way through the battlefield. Every few moments, she shockwaves the AIM and DODC troops away. Quake makes it to the quad mech, and she shockwaves the mech, knocking it over. Connor can blow this thing, Daisy says. The Northeast Soldier flies by, carpet bombing the mech and blowing it up. The cavalry is in a 3v1, 2 DODC and 1 AIM troop versus her. But they can't do anything against her. She repels every attack and hits them all with kill strikes. But suddenly a riot bot approaches her. She throws a knife and it collapses the bot easily. No challenge there, Melinda says. Synthoids and DODC troops rush toward NYPD and S.H.I.E.L.D. personnel, and a barrage of gunfire from dozens of officers and agents is what takes all of the synthoids down. Riot bots are there too. They cut through some of the agents and officers. Deaths that will be avenged, because seconds later, Connor shreds all of the riot bots. But then, the DODC armor flies in, and delivers a punch to the Northeast Soldier. Connor loses control but stabilizes quickly, and another air fight happens. The DODC armor pilot readies an attack at Connor. However, Connor dodges this attack, and the micro-missile flies into a quad mech, which destroys it. Connor then flies up and then blasts off toward the DODC armor, and the pilot attempts to fire missiles at the armor, but Connor dodges them all, before hitting the armor hard enough to where it's rendered destroyed. The DODC suit falls and hits the ground hard, and Connor unmasks the pilot. It was Pete Cleary the whole time, who glares at Connor with a bloodied nose. What goes around comes around, Connor says, as the battle continues around them. This fight lasts hours, both sides lose numbers, and finally, they get time to breathe. The quad mechs are destroyed. Synthoids lay dead on the ground. Ryobots lay destroyed as well, and the AIM and DODC troops have surrendered from being outnumbered. You think this is over? Like the DODC will just call it quits? We'll see each other again, Foster asks, glaring at Alfonso. You don't want to see me again, Alfonso says, his voice cold. That was it. The war was over. Act 3. Endgame. A few days later, the news reports about the battle. Connor, Elena, Daisy, Daniel, Alfonso, Audrey, and Melinda all sit in the S.H.I.E.L.D. HQ, enjoying coffee and talking. So, you got your tech back? All's well that ends well, Audrey asks. Alfonso nods and chuckles. On behalf of all agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we thank you for your help, and you've got some good officers on your hands, especially him, Alfonso says as he gestures to Connor, who's joking and laughing with Daisy, Daniel, and Melinda. My officer. We'll share him. I'll get Mondays through Thursdays, and you both can have the weekends, Audrey says. Elena sips her coffee, and before Alfonso can speak, she tells Audrey that it sounds good to her. So, what's next, Campbell? Salsa asks Connor. Connor goes quiet. I think I'm gonna go home and finish off the good night's sleep I was getting before all this. But suddenly, Connor feels his phone vibrate, and he drifts his eyes down as he pulls it out of his pocket. The text was from Lance Davidson. Lots to tell you. Meet up later? Connor reads.